Death to hip-hop. Death to hip-hop is a chant being sung nationwide. Death to hip-hop. Yes, death to a culture that subjects our children to scantily clad women who are referred to as bitches and hoes. Once we rid the world of hip-hop, then our children surely will be safe. As soon as hip-hop is dead, Billy will get off drugs, pull up his pants, and go back to school. Now, for all of you who are on the edge of your seats, ready to give me a thunderous applause, I say to you, wake up. Hip-hop is not the single most deadly concern facing our children today. Hip-hop cannot be singled out as the single cause of the demoralization of our culture, of our society. If we look what is going on TV, if we look what's going on inside of our own homes, we could understand that. So, stop blaming the moral decline of our country on hip-hop while you lay on your couch watching the L Word while your kids are off doing God knows what with God knows who. Stop jumping on every bandwagon that rolls past your front door. Put down your cigarettes, put the beer down, get up and find out what your kids are really doing. Stop looking for your neighbor, for our teachers, for ministers and pastors, even the government to raise our children. Be an adult, be a rational human being, and raise your own child. There are worse things out there also besides hip-hop. Things like an emo culture that glorifies depression and suicidal tendencies. But this section, something as serious and as dangerous as emo, is being overlooked while we're jumping on the new it thing of hip-hop. Now, this calls for censorship of hip-hop is not anything new. But back in April of 2007, when Don Imus was recorded as saying the women of the Rutgers basketball team was quoted as being said, they are a bunch of nappy-headed hoes. Now, of course there was fallout from this comment. People were all in uproar and all upset. And what did they do? They did not blame a grown man with a radio show who has a history of saying ignorant things. No, they did not blame him. Yes, he lost his job, which has since been reinstated, but they blamed hip-hop. Why? Because hip-hop, all they do is refer to the women as bitches and hoes, and he thought it was okay that he could do so too. Well, Snoop Dogg was quoted as saying, rappers are not talking about no collegiate basketball girls who have made it to the next level in education in sports. We are talking about hoes in the hood that ain't doing shit, that's trying to get a nigga for his money. These are two separate things. This was in the sit-down that he had with Jason Rosenbaum for an article on the censorship of hip-hop. Other music genres also have a history of degrading women. Stone Temple Pilots has a song titled Hollywood Bitch that, from my understanding, is about a woman who simply wanted to live a rock star life. But I guess since somebody was either jealous or didn't like it, she's called names in this. Also, Anachrist released a song titled Frigid Bitch, which is about a woman who didn't want to be bothered with him. But she was given that title. Yes, sir, I have never heard any uproar over either one of those songs. I even searched the songs on Google and Yahoo. Couldn't find any mentions of them. Told me plenty of places where I can purchase them, but I didn't hear anybody saying ban them, take them off the radio waves, pull that music out of the kids' iPods. Didn't hear anything of the sort. But if you type in the word hip-hop, thousands of articles come up with all the reasons why hip-hop should be banned. Hip-hop also is a very bad rap for the glorification of violence. Rappers are often criticized for depicting violent images in their lyrics, but most hip-hop artists are writing about the cultures in the cities that they live in. And it's not violent. A lot of times the message is lost in what is actually being said. Back in the 1960s and in that era, civil rights leaders would use the same form of speech to go out and bring attention to social injustices. Just then they would give speeches on mountaintops, marches to Washington, and sit-ins at the local diner. Well, in 1990, NWA released a song that said F the police. People heard the song and were all in uproar, assuming that he's calling people to get together and and go against the police. But that is not what the song is about. The song was actually about the social injustices that these rappers were seeing in their community. They could not get any help from the police. From who? Who else is going to help them to fight the corruption that was going on in their LA neighborhoods? But, yet again, parents heard one part and that was it. And even that CD was not a CD that could be bought without someone over 18 purchasing that CD for you. And half of NWA's song was bleeped out when it was ever played on the radio. So the censorship that we do have in place by the FCC keeps your kids from knowing what they were actually saying. So if your kids knew the words to these songs, then they heard it when you were playing them in your car, or when you purchased a CD and left it lying around. Again, adults, we have to take ownership and responsibility of our children. Now, why attack hip-hop? Don Imus' comment did not start the war against hip-hop, but it sure refueled it again. Hip-hop became a problem when hip-hop became mainstream and left the inner cities and reached all out into white suburbia. Parents heard the rap lyrics and were appalled. Many did not understand the messages. Music is art. Hip-hop is music. Therefore, hip-hop is an art form, which is depicted here. This is a graffiti picture of a hip-hop artist using his turntables back in the day when hip-hop was first getting its start and getting its roots. People who live these lifestyles of most of these hip-hop artists, they come from inner city neighborhoods, low-income neighborhoods where the violence is prevalent. People in this type of environment don't say things like, "Oh gosh darn." So yes, there's lots of cussing going on in this. Warren Hill once wrote a song called "The Score" on the Fuji CD, and in one of her verses she stated that even after all her logics and her theories, she adds a MF so that ignorant people can hear her. Sometimes, unfortunately, the only way that you can communicate with people is to get down on their level. And a lot of times the message that these artists are trying to convey is being lost in all of the profanity and the violence that is being said. Now, even clothing like the baggy pants have been outlawed in many schools. And teens are not permitted to wear this baggy pants because it's a hip-hop culture, yet still children are allowed to go to school dressed up in this emo culture, which again glorifies things like suicide and depression, and that is supposed to be cool. But we're okay that our kids are upstairs in a room depressed and having suicidal thoughts as long as they pull those pants up. Hip-hop has also provided many African Americans with a way out of the neighborhoods that they grew up in and a way to provide an income for their family that they may not have otherwise had. It provided other alternatives. It also started bringing a source of income back into these communities. All hip-hop is not bad. I'm not saying all is good either, but all is not bad, and it definitely should not be singled out as a single cause of the demoralization of our culture. So in conclusion, throughout the history of music, there have been parent boycotts and groups determined to censor it. Well, today hip-hop has the latest form that's come under attack, even from within inside. Russell Simmons, CEO of Def Jam Records, made his living by promoting the hip-hop industry and his capitalization on his music and clothing. A quote from USA Today says that Russell Simmons helped found the hip-hop movement and turned it into a huge money-making machine. Russell Simmons is worth anywhere from $325 to $500 million, according to the same article in USA Today. How can a man who ultimately owes his life to hip-hop turn his back on it? I admit that there are things that need to be changed, but I'm also a firm believer in not biting the hand that feeds you. We need to take responsibilities of our lives and the lives of our children. There are plenty of safety measures out there to protect our children. Know what your children are getting into. Things like this emo culture. This is a picture, and I don't know if you can read it, but this says it's a happy ending, and this is of a kid who slit their wrist. I found this picture on the emo website, and it's titled Happy Ending. So please, parents, do not rely on a plastic sticker on the front of a CD cover to protect your children. Stop blaming hip-hop. Stop grabbing the hot button issues. Become active. Become aware. Thank you.